Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the RLM podcast. I'm your host, Eli Detter, and joining me in the studio is a person that I have known for actually not too long, but I've known him long enough that we have established a brotherhood, and I will refer to him as none other than my brother, Calvin Ridgeway. Calvin, feel free to introduce yourself, man.
So like Eli said, I'm Calvin Ridgeway, not too foreign, but also not too familiar with the area around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of retrace our steps in our friendship and kind of tell everybody the story. Of how we met. And you can correct me along the way if I get this wrong.
I will.
I remember I would always come into the library here at the high school, and I would always come in and I'd be on the computer. I'd be playing video games or doing homework or whatever, just talking to people, doing stuff, helping out as a library aide. I remember one time you came up to me, I believe it was me and Iris were sitting, and you came up to me and you started talking to me, and you're like, dude, I remember you're like, dude, you're so cool. I always see you. I've always wanted to be your friend, stuff like that. And I was taken aback a little because I was just, it was just a random person just coming up and talking to me. I was like, oh, hey, what's up, dude?
Yeah, pretty much.
And that kind of started. And then, whenever I'd see you, I'd say hi to you or I'd dap you up or whatever. And then I honestly don't even know how it went from just a casual friendship to an absolute brotherhood.
I know how.
How'd it happen?
You gave me your VPN. I remember that one.
Oh, yeah.
You gave me the VPN.
I showed you how to set up a VPN. I do remember that. Yeah. And then we exchanged numbers and we just started talking to each other. And obviously over the summer, I kind of had... during the summer, I always kind of go a little off grid because I was working.
We all do.
And I don't always keep contact with all my friends all the time. There are a select few that I will talk to a lot.
That include me?
Yes, it does include you because, like I said, you are none other than my brother. And obviously this year started, and we were hanging out a lot more. We were obviously sitting together, chilling together. We kind of established our brotherhood. I remember we had sat. I had invited you and Iris over to my house, and we were.
Wasn't that the first time in a while, though?
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever had friends over at my house. You guys were the first ones to actually see what my room looked like. First one to see what my, first ones I ever really hung out with. Not the first ones ever, but you were the first ones I had over at my house and hung out with.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You had a giant bag of goldfish sitting there, and I said,
I did. I had a giant box of goldfish. I do. I got rid of that recently because my mom was like, "Well, these are probably not good anymore."
Can't believe it.
But yeah. And I remember we had sat on the back deck after Iris had gotten home, and you and I were just sitting by the fire, and we were just kind of talking. And we kind of got to talking. You shared with me your story, and I shared with you mine. And I would like you, if you are comfortable with it, just sharing your story on here for these people to learn more about you and relate to you and stuff like that, man.
Which part do you want me to cover specifically?
You can start wherever you feel is necessary. You can leave out parts if you don't need people to know that.
Well, my beginning of my Hempfield High School journey was when I first started out coming here from York. I moved there recently from Philadelphia, and I came here from York. And I always grew up in most people would call it the ghettos, but I just call it my home. I never saw anything wrong with it, but then I kind of moved out here, and I saw vastly different areas.
Right.
It was very difficult adapting to the rural area of Lancaster.
The mean streets.
But if you want my story from before I came here, I was 6 months old. We're going to start there. I was born to my biological parents, which they weren't the best people, in my personal opinion. I won't get into detail on what they did, but I ended up going with my aunt and uncle a little bit with my biological mom. I was still 6 months old at the time, and she took me to the hospital, and let's just say doctors took things in their own hands, and I ended up with my aunt and uncle.
Right.
But I never knew for about 14 years, up until last year. I never knew about it.
That's crazy.
And then when I found out about it, everything felt weird for a bit.
Right.
It still does, to be honest. Knowing that all of this happened, I never even
Right.
it.
Right. I mean, you spent your whole life calling these people your parents, and of course, I mean, to
They
you,
still
they are your parents.
They still are. They always will be.
Right, and then you find out, oh, they're not my biological parents, even though you are related to them by blood.
Technically, they are.
Yeah, I mean,
always call them my
you are related to them by blood, that's such a unique situation.
And it's not like I ended up in a home or anything.
Right.
They got the call from the services, and they're like, "Hey, do you want them?" And they're like, my mom hangs up the phone because they gave him like 15 minutes time. My dad
Right.
looks over and he says, "What are you doing? Pick up that phone again. We got to get him."
Right.
And my dad always knew how the system was, and still is, to be honest.
Right.
It's horrible. And
Yeah.
having a 6-month-old go through that process, let
Oh, yeah.
alone someone 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's that like I said again, that is a incredibly unique situation, and for what it is worth, I'm glad that you are here with us. I'm glad that I got the chance to meet you and become friends with you. Obviously, my parents like you. My parents are.
I'd hope so.
Yeah, I know. With all of them driving us around everywhere, right? They gotta like you at some point. No, they like you. I mean, I told them that I was gonna have you on the podcast, and so I'm sure they're gonna listen to this.
I heard a lot of people are gonna listen to this one.
I hope they do, man. I made a post on Instagram, and I put some interesting describer words. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up
You
here.
didn't show me that one.
I did not, because you do not.
I don't need to know that yet, do I?
You do not have Instagram, so I can put anything on here. You won't know.
Yeah, I'll find out sooner or later, pal. Don't worry about it.
But I am going to share with you what I wrote about you. I said, "This is Calvin Ridgeway. He is funny, charismatic, charming, ruggedly handsome, moderately intelligent,
Moderately? I see how it is.
and most importantly, my brother. I met him about a year ago when he came up to me in the library and asked if he could be my friend. Who would have thought that the friendship that we created would turn into the brotherhood that it is today?"
Yeah, I mean, that's typically how almost all friendships start out,
Yeah.
Hey, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me? And it just ends up coming like that, and
That's how a lot of relationships start as well. I mean,
yeah,
that's
pretty much.
pretty much how people get to know each other.
I never really was this. This is probably my first year ever coming out and being outgoing like this again, especially moving here from York and all that. Still, I'll be honest, still not familiar with the
Yeah.
5 years that I've been here
Yeah.
still. And, with COVID and all that, everything hit.
Oh yeah, because of COVID, I mean, you couldn't really do much then. So I mean, and that was what, 4 years of COVID,
Technically,
or-
around that
I
area.
mean,
Either way,
right?
still feels like it.
Tell us how you've kind of have learned to adjust to Hempfield and this new, this new environment, this new school, new friends, all that stuff.
Well, I wouldn't say I really adapted to it still, I'm still not used to all these kind faces everywhere. Not to disregard Philadelphia or York, it's just, it's so weird being in a high school, even with a podcast studio.
Yeah.
It's so weird being able to have access to all this stuff and,
Oh yeah.
just be able to sit there and be like, "Hi,
Yeah.
hey there, how are you doing? Pretty good, And
Yeah.
just had a whole conversation right there,
Right. But I mean, it is. I mean, I bet it was obviously, like you said, it was definitely a change from Philadelphia. What was like the one thing that when you came into? I mean, you would have come into what, the middle school?
I came in elementary school, actually, 6th
Oh,
grade.
elementary. Okay, so what was like the main difference that you saw almost immediately when you got here?
The classrooms.
Right.
It reminded me of something you'd see on like TV or something. All the classes had all those ABC,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3s, and I know I never really got used to it. Still
Yeah.
after,
Right.
I'm
I know. I almost take that for granted because I would look at that and be like, "Oh, that's just what to me, that's just what a high school class looks like," because I've never been to another high school.
And that's just not the only thing. I've never really was like how I am now. With the basketball, history, and all that. My middle school teacher back in York had to cram me into history before I even started getting into it, and then I just sat there and I came here and I'm like, he taught me well, and I should appreciate that, and that's why I started going into history, because I wanted to remember, everything that happened beforehand.
Right. I mean, of course, it's important for us to go back, and it's important for anyone to study history simply because we need to be able to in order to understand where we're going and where we are, we need to understand where we came from and what started it all.
It's not just general history you have to remember, it's your own history.
Right.
You can't sit there and just be like, I'm going to study this, I'm going to study 18th century Rome.
Right.
Not even 18th century, I don't know, but look, I'm not the best here.
It's like 8th century.
8th century Rome.
Missed it by a couple thousand years.
Yeah,
it's
but
all right.
You got to sit there and you got to remember your own history. You got to remember where you came from. What happened? How did you get here and change to where you want to be today?
Yeah. It's like what I always say, while my history is not one that I'm proud of, I'm not proud of all this. I'm not.
None of us are.
Most of the past, 13 years, I'm not proud of. There might be a couple months that I did some good stuff. Of course, the last couple months I've been working my ass off to be a better person.
Watch your language there, pal. Come on, buddy. Can't believe it. This is a school.
It's not a
school listens to this.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay, man.
This is not sanctioned. This is mine.
I'm gonna make it sanctioned. Yeah.
Sanctioned. No, I mean I really have been working as hard as I can just to become a better person, and my parents, they help me with that. They point out where I could change, where I could be better. But yeah, as much as I don't like everything that happened in the last 13 years, I knew that I need to acknowledge it and look at what happened, obviously, because if I don't ever understand why all that stuff happened, I will never understand how to keep it from happening in the future.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's always nice to look back and see how you were back then, even if it hurts to go look at it, if it was cringy.
And sometimes I won't, my parents will tell me like, yeah, you were like this when you were a kid. I'm like, I don't even remember.
Were you a Disney kid as a kid?
Sure. I don't know.
Everyone was a Disney kid at some point.
Like, I liked Mickey Mouse. I don't know. My parents, I went to Disney 2 times that I remember as a kid. One time that I never remembered.
I've never went to Disney. Never have.
That's like that's one of your long-term. That's, yeah.
Closest I've gotten to was Knoebels.
I've never been to Knoebels, actually. I've
heard
it's pretty good.
Okay, we're going to have that conversation later on in the podcast.
Only place I've been is, let's see, Dutch Wonderland, Hershey Park, and Disney.
Wow.
The 3, yeah. But, I still think it is amazing. Like you said, first, you look back through your history. It's amazing to see what the immediate turning point between how someone is and what they changed to be, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know if you had as drastic of a change as I kind of went through a very drastic change in who I was and who I am now. But I would love to hear where you saw was like that moment in time where a large part of your life changed.
I'll be honest, probably leaving 8th grade, going into high school, I noticed I was being used a lot.
Yeah.
I was sitting there, I was helping a lot of friends out. Most of them I'm not really friends with now, but I learned things, and I learned, I had all these friends coming up to me. Hey, Calvin, can you bail me out of this one? Hey, Calvin, can I copy your essay?
Yeah.
That actually led to me being a whole scandal happening. That whole thing.
Oh. But bro was too good for. Bro was.
It was essay gate.
Bro was pimping himself out there, huh?
Not really. It was more of our whole classroom ended up copying my essay.
So either you were really smart or they were just dumber than you were.
It was both. I sat there and I told them, hey, change that before anything happens. And none of them changed it. They put like 2 words differently.
How did they know it was yours that they copied off of?
Because I actually got it off another friend and then I changed it drastically. My friend didn't share it with anyone else and I just changed mine drastically and I shared it and no one else changed it. But the funny thing was, I had a backup essay the whole time.
Bro was prepared. He said, dude, you are not catching me with this one.
And this was when Mr. Conrad was the middle school vice principal. So he comes up to me.
When he was the dean of students.
And he sat there and he was like, you got to have lunch detention for as many days as you got to take remaking that essay. And I looked him dead in his face. I already made mine, pal.
What did he say to that?
He said, oh, okay, you just have 1 day lunch detention. I didn't add the pal part. Mr. Conrad, if you're listening, please forgive me. Just know I respect you. You gotta admit that was pretty funny, though.
Yeah, it's funny. Bro's like, dude, I already did that. We
Don't come after me, all right? I gave out cookies today. I did my deed.
the truth comes out, huh?
It seems like the truth comes out sooner or later, man.
It always does, doesn't it?
Look, and I don't do that anymore. I just want to make that clear to all teachers. I do not share my essays anymore. I don't share homework. I don't do any of that. I'm a good student.
Yeah.
You gotta take my word on it. But I found out everything, and we come into 9th grade, and I still have the same people coming up to me. Hey, can I get some help? Hey, can you help me with this? Hey, can I get something from you?
Right.
And I started saying no.
Yeah. You gotta learn to say no, because if you don't, you're just you're gonna get used.
I know that's a very overused phrase.
Yeah.
Just say no.
Right.
But
It's accurate.
sometimes it's difficult for people.
Oh yeah.
Or sometimes I still have difficulty with getting transport to go everywhere. That swings back to your parents always having to come get us.
Dude, I will. Once I get my license, dude, I will be your chauffeur.
I hope.
No,
But,
I.
What happened was, I always had these people coming up to me like, why can't you get a job yet? Why can't you come over here? Why do we always have to pick you up? And I sit there and I try to say, I don't have transportation.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you have a bike.
That's not reliable transportation.
Where I live,
No,
and
it's
compared to where
definitely not.
everyone else lives,
Exactly.
riding a bike will be like half the day, and by the time I'm there, everyone's already leaving.
It's not effective. It's not efficient.
It's so difficult to make it clear to some people
Right.
that I don't have the transportation. I don't have what you have. I don't have
Right.
a family member who works 9 to 5 who can, get off of work, come take me somewhere. I have 2 parents who
Work their butts off.
my mom, she works let me think here. I think 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Oh, wow.
sometimes. And my dad's not home at all during the week. He's a truck driver. He's only home on the weekends. And, my dad, he's a very calm man.
Yeah.
I think you've met him a few times.
I don't. I've seen him once. I don't think I've said hi to him. I don't think I've met other.
Most people say he's scary. Rightfully so. The guy was a security guard for a while. he was a security guard for Shaquille O'Neal. He even
really?
has a photo with him.
That's crazy.
And Pele. Yeah.
Interesting.
Dad, I know you're not going to listen to this, but get used to it, pal.
That. I mean, it is. Of course, we're in this generation where everyone's like, oh, there's expectations.
There's expectations. You should have a car. You should be able to go somewhere. You should have the money.
There are social assumptions and expectations of how teenagers should be. One of them, of course, oh, you're 16, you should have your permit. You should be driving.
And I don't think I'm ready for a permit, to be honest.
If you're not ready,
Look at me.
you don't need it. I mean, I didn't get my permit till a couple months ago. I'm not gonna have my license for another 3 or 4 months.
Me personally, I don't think I should get my permit until my junior year.
Hey, and that's totally fine.
17 years old.
Yeah, 17's a good
I don't trust
age.
myself driving besides that.
Exactly. Unless you are a person who is always doing something, and you're and your parents are always busy. I mean, and you have the ability to get your permit, get your license. Then yes, sure, you can try and get it at an earlier age. But I really do not believe there is a necessity that there should be the need to get your permit and your license and a car at 16.
And some people just shouldn't be able to drive cars in general. Come on.
Oh yeah, there's some people I'm like, you should not be.
For someone like me, someone who doesn't really have people around, every day it's really come home, go shopping with my mom if she has off.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, it's just be alone.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt to be alone, but for someone who's been alone for a while, sometimes it hurts, but you learn to get used to it. I know a lot of people don't like being alone 24/7.
Yeah.
They don't like being.
Hell, I don't.
Yeah, but it's just something I've had for a while. I've been used to being alone, and it's just something I learned to grow with.
And I think I mean, I don't know. I spent a long time of purposefully being alone, purposefully isolating myself, which is probably why I have so many weird habits now. There are a couple things that I do that only happened because I
Should that be
isolated myself.
should that be aired out on the podcast? I think you should say it. Yeah, she's agreeing with me too. You should say it.
Okay, so I have a tendency to listen to people's footsteps, and I will know exactly who it is based on
Me too.
footsteps. It's just from sitting on my bed for hours just thinking. And you know, every time I heard someone, I'd be able to fully analyze their
Spidey
steps.
senses.
How fast they're moving, where they're going. They're so, like, I could,
And that's something that comes easily to some people.
Yeah.
Just being able to hear it's that person.
Yeah.
They're here.
Or I have like I have very good
Elevated?
hearing.
What are you elevated?
I elevated
Are
senses.
you levitating right now? Do I need to check
Elevated
real quick?
senses.
Elevated. He's levitating. You might want to check him real quick.
And I have. My arm is all wrenched up right now.
It sounds like a you.
It
No.
is. It hurts.
I'm sorry.
I have good hearing, so I could like tell which one of my parents was home just by listening to like the sound of the motor
Eli?
going to the driveway.
Hearing? That's a
Like
new
the
one.
like just the like I was just literally hearing. I'd be like, oh, that's Dad's home. They have loud cars. They had the Subarus. They're loud cars. I could hear them from a mile
I think
away.
all cars are loud besides EVs, pal. Come on.
Those have to be loud. Those they have to make those loud. Anyways, we were getting so off the topic here.
All
the
right.
point is, did you ever? I mean, you said you kind of allowed yourself to be alone. I mean, you were in a position where you are you are alone.
The thing is, sometimes it's not voluntary. You know?
Right.
It's not like you have a choice to be alone.
Right.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Sometimes it's involuntary. You can't really control that.
Most of the time, it has been. I love communicating with people, but it's just I've grown so used to it.
Right.
It's
You
normal
don't-
to be alone.
Right. You don't need that constant 24/7 human attention.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
I think that's super mature. I think that if you can go, 24, if you can go a full day and not have someone talk to you and you don't feel like a burning need to talk to someone, it doesn't make you a sociopath, doesn't make you messed up in the head. It just means you are content with yourself enough to be like, hey, I don't need someone always paying attention to me.
And people act like that's abnormal. People
Right.
do it all the time.
Yeah.
People sit there and they're like, you know what? I can't do it today. I can't talk to people today. I need to be by myself. Everyone acts like they haven't done it at some point.
Right.
Everyone has. Even if you don't want to admit it or you can't remember it, everyone's done it at some point. It's
Right.
okay to be alone sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's not like this burning sensation. Oh, if you're alone for one day, everything's gonna happen. Michael Jackson's gonna come back from the dead. Something like that. Like, you're not missing anything if you want to be alone for one day.
Right.
If you miss anything, it's just, oh well.
Part of life.
You can always
I
do
mean-
something again. Everyone's missed something at some
Right.
point.
I mean, I have FOMO. I have the fear of missing out. That's just, and it's something I've learned to deal with. Something my parents have helped me with. But yeah, I have FOMO like crazy.
I have anti-FOMO.
What is
means-
that?
That means I don't care if I miss out. Sometimes I purposefully do it, and to all my friends out there, I haven't done that within the past 4 months. Every excuse has been proofread, and you can ask anybody. It is true.
That doesn't say when you say proofread. That doesn't make it sound like it's true.
You want me to pull up the documents, pal?
Bro has legally binding documents here.
Legally binding documents that state Calvin Ridgeway was not able to show up to this event
That's
for X, Y, and Z. No, that's not something people have. You know, everyone has a reason. Doesn't mean they have to give you that reason.
right. I hate when people are like, when people say prove it. I'm like, why do I need to prove anything to you? Right? It's like
You beat the Tetris high score? Prove it.
prove it. No, it's just like when people ask you, right? When people in the gym ask you, how much can you weigh? And you say, I can weigh this amount. And they're like, prove it. I'm like, I don't need to prove that to you. I have no need or desire.
When I say what I bench or whatever, I don't need to prove it because it's the bar. For someone who likes to play basketball, I just stick to myself and I work out how I see fit. And this is not a workout type of thing. I'm just stating that because, it's the topic.
Yeah.
But, it's just, you don't have to give excuses. You don't have to prove why you don't want to be there.
No.
Maybe you're busy. Maybe you just don't have the motivation to go there that day. Maybe something's going on that you don't want to talk about. But when people sit there and ask you to prove it, you don't sit there and be like, unless you want to prove it and you want to explain it to them, you sit there and say, this is not your issue to deal with, and
Right.
this is not your problem to know. This is not your place to know. I don't want to be there because I don't want to be there, or I have issues that are going on that you don't need to know. There's stuff in my life that people don't know, and I'm pretty sure some people don't know that the story behind me being adopted.
Right.
And I wouldn't even call it adoption. My parents don't even call it adoption because those are my aunt and uncle, but to me those are my parents.
Right.
They've always been my parents since I can remember.
Right.
And
Yeah.
when you're 6 months old, you don't tend to remember anything.
Right, that's very true. Obviously my parents are in no way related to me, but
I've seen.
but even still, I would never consider them anything but they are parents. I mean, they are my mom, they're my dad, they're my mommy and my daddy, whatever, right? I mean, that's who they were to me when I was young.
Question.
What?
Do they pay the bills?
Yeah.
Do they give you a roof over your head?
Oh yeah.
Do they feed you?
Oh yeah.
Do they clean for you?
Oh yeah.
Do they do laundry for you?
I help them.
Did they used to?
They did.
That's
yes,
your family.
yeah.
That's
exactly.
your parents. Those are your parents. If they
Boom.
feed you, if they give you a roof over your head, if they take care of you, if they check in with you, if they took you in, give you a bed and a
Right.
room, that's your family.
Yeah,
Those are your
exactly.
parents. Those people will spend countless amounts of money.
Oh yeah.
I was looking at before. I think it's like $18 million or so to take care of a child up until they're 18.
Oh yeah.
Don't fact check me on that. That's about last I remember reading. But these people that we call family put time and effort into taking care of us, and sometimes they don't have to take care of us.
Right. It is a privilege that we have. I mean, we are lucky, especially now, to be able to say I have a mom and a dad. I feel so lucky every day that I get to say that word.
And
those
people
words.
don't get to say that. Not all people
Exactly.
get to see that.
Exactly.
Say that. There's
especially now.
There's people who are like, I only have a mom.
Right.
I only have a dad. And that's okay. That's okay to have a single parent. That's okay to not have any parents. But you have someone out there who's looking out for you, who's clearly taking care of you and giving you, the food you need to live.
Right.
A shelter over your head. And, whether that's your aunt and uncle, your grandparents, that's family.
Right.
And that family took you in and decided to take care of you. Like how my aunt and uncle took me in from 6 months old, and instead of sending me to, child services, took me in and took care of me up to where I am today, and still plan on taking care of me. And that's something that we're all lucky to have.
Right.
Whether it's by choice, whether we were mistakes, not shooting shots at anybody.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't think anyone is a mistake.
Our parents had the chance to, put us in CPS, put us somewhere, but they chose to keep us.
Right.
That's not something that, we're just going to do this and, we'll see where this goes.
Right.
That's a literally lifelong commitment.
Right.
You give them money, you feed them, you take care of them, you take them to school, you pick them up, you take them to doctor's visits, whatever they're called. What I'm getting at is your family is what has kept people going for so long, and has kept some people even alive or out of places that they shouldn't be.
Right.
Whether that's through adoption, taking someone in because their biological parents couldn't take care of them, or something. It's always something that they need to take care of. But being from a family who isn't my parents, it's my aunt and uncle, those are still my parents. No matter what people say, no matter what they say. Whether it's adoption, it's not adoption. Those are my parents.
Right. Well, thank you, Calvin, for coming in and talking with us, brother. Again, y'all.
No, I hated it. No, I'm kidding.
Again, y'all, we are lucky that we are able to have these people in our lives who take care of us, who love us unconditionally for who we are. I hope that you truly do look at your parents in a positive light. You never take them for granted. Never take your family for granted. Of course, you can find Calvin
anywhere.
Yeah. Well, you're not on Instagram, so I can't even say that. But
You'll find me in school. You'll
Yeah.
find me places.
And you can find the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, all the good places.
Oh,
feel
and
free-
if you're ever struggling with getting used to a new place, just take your time.
Yeah.
It's all that it takes.
All right. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, we'll talk. We will. We'll be with you later. And we hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for checking in with the RLM podcast. We will see you later.